You're watching Alaska's news source.
Well, the sun is out. Temperatures are rising all across Alaska. The heat seen earlier this week now expanding to south central and southeast, where for the first time ever, a heat advisory is in effect. Well, good evening. We got a lot to tell you about here tonight on Alaska's news source, but right now, even the moose are having a hard time finding a little reprieve from this heat.
We're having a lot of fun with this story. We're going to have that later on and some video later in the newscast. But first, we've got Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry tracking our temperatures. She's got our first look. Melissa.
Yeah, you know, moose are looking for a place to cool off. It is getting hot in Alaska, and that heat, again, expanding across the state. Want to show you those conditions. Again, we have warnings in place for the heat. We've been talking about wildfires all this week as well. Here's a look at those warnings. Again, red flag warnings in effect across the interior. Still dealing with flood warnings because of the rapid snowmelt through the Brooks Range. And then, again, for the first time ever in Alaska's history, heat advisories now in effect for southeast. This is for the higher elevations along the Haines Highway, as temperatures tomorrow there will climb to near 80 degrees. Now, it's not new that temperatures are in the 80s in this part of the state, but what is new is that the Alaska National Weather Service is now alerting us when temperatures reach 80 and above in this region, because at that level, if you're spending a lot of time outdoors, it can become more dangerous. Heat, one of the most deadly natural disasters. Again, red flag warnings continue across the interior. New lightning strikes today, several hundred lightning strikes, which is a concern with the hot and dry conditions. And the number of wildfires we have burning in the state continues to grow. Now more than 12,000 acres burned this year. That number has more than tripled in just the past 24 hours. 71 active fires burning in the state, 37 of which are new in just the past 24 hours. 10 of those are staffed. And the largest fire that we currently have staffed is the Oskawalik fire. I want to show you video there from today. The Division of Forestry saying it is now nearly 1,800 acres as of this afternoon. You can see a recent drop of flame retardant here in this video. That fire only about 15% contained, but that's because of the efforts of about 91 personnel working along the perimeter. So again, over a dozen new fire starts in the state. We'll continue to monitor that situation, but the heat not helping. Up north, flood warnings in effect again, not because of any source of moisture, but just because of the rapid snowmelt from the heat. These rivers now extending their banks. Temperatures pushing into the 80s in the interior, 70s in McGrath and Northway, even mid-60s now in Anchorage, just a little bit above normal for this time of year, but it is going to get much warmer as we head into tomorrow all the way through the end of the week. So tonight, again, those clouds, they're clearing. We're looking at mostly clear conditions heading into Thursday. Temperatures starting out in the 50s, and then we're headed to nearly 70 degrees in the second half of the day. We're going to continue to see 80s in other parts of the state, mid-70s into the valley, and again 80s into parts of southeast as well. Have a look at that detailed 7-day forecast next.
All right, look forward to that. Thank you, Melissa. Developing tonight, Alaska's news source has learned a nonprofit plans to sue over Governor Mike Dunleavy's education funding veto.
That comes nearly 1 week after the governor cited oil prices as he slashed almost $51 million, leaving leaders for districts across the state to make what they've described as unexpected and dire cuts.
Our political reporter, Will Courtney, breaking down the details for us tonight. Will.
Yeah, Augusta, John, the lawsuit timeframe will be soon. At least that's what the executive director of the nonprofit Coalition for Education Equity of Alaska tells me. She says they plan to argue the governor's education veto violates Alaska's Constitution. Caroline Storm tells Alaska's news source the Constitution and previous court rulings lay out her argument, saying the Constitution says the legislature will establish and maintain a system of public schools open to all children of the state. It's an argument that a growing number of lawmakers have also told me was a possibility as well. In light of the veto, Storm said the maintenance of schools is not adequate.
Lawsuits take time. But without the pressure of a lawsuit, I honestly feel like there are too many legislators and the governor who are not willing to do their job and come up with a fiscal plan to pay for an adequate public education system.
The governor's veto is actually a cut in funding from what was funded last year. So I think there's a very strong legal argument to be made that we're not meeting our constitutional obligation to maintain and establish and maintain a system of education because we're not funding it.
There's a lot of uncertainty in what's next. Lawmakers say they can't take this on until they're back in session. That's 7 months from now, in January. That's because the governor also vetoed money for a special session. And lawmakers say they will not have enough members for a vote. A spokesperson for the Attorney General's office said they have not received word of a lawsuit yet. Will Courtney, Alaska's news source.
All right, great reporting, Will. Thanks so much. And now we're going to transition. A Fairbanks man is in custody facing assault, harassment, and coercion charges after police say he assaulted a juvenile inside a tanning salon. Here's a picture of that man, 29-year-old Joshua Yaska. And the Fairbanks Police Department saying it's concerned there might be more victims in this case. The department wants the public to reach out if they have any information that could be relevant.
We don't believe that the cases that we have are the only cases. We believe that there's other victims out there, and we just want to make sure that if he has harmed anybody else, that he's held accountable for that.
Yaska appeared in court today on the charges related to the juveniles case. The chief says officers had also arrested Yaska on Sunday after entering a bedroom and being found trying to break into another house.
Alaska's news source asked the chief beyond those allegations, since Yaska has extensive criminal history with similar charges, why he had been released.
Once the Fairbanks Police Department has a case like this or like the ones in September, we forward those over to the district attorney's office. And then from that point, the district attorney is the one that actually files the charges with the court and determines what avenue to go from there.
Alaska's news source attempted to contact Yaska as well as the Public Defender's Office and the Fairbanks District Attorney's Office. We have not yet heard back, but we will keep you updated.
And the Alaska State Troopers involved in a fatal shooting from this past weekend have been identified. Troopers Jacob Barker, Cody Haley, and Edward Owens fired their weapons and killed a Wasilla man Saturday, according to the Department of Public Safety. The agency says they were executing a felony arrest warrant for Kyle Lambert, who was in Houston at the time. Lambert allegedly came out of a trailer, seen here, with a handgun drawn. The three troopers fired on Lambert, who died at the scene. All three currently on leave while the Alaska Bureau of Investigation looks into the case. Trooper Haley was also involved in a shooting in Wasilla last month.
Charges against a Soldotna restaurant owner being held in a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Detention Center in Washington State are reportedly being dropped. That's according to the U.S. Attorney's Office and a motion filed by federal prosecutors. Court documents show a U.S. District Court judge approved the motion to dismiss federal charges against Rodriguez Rincon, who is accused of illegally entering the country. Prosecutors cited challenges with costs, logistics, and other proceedings. The government appears to still be pursuing deporting Rodriguez Rincon, who ran multiple businesses in Soldotna until being arrested earlier this year. You can read the full story on our website.
And the Department of the Interior is making a push to expand oil and gas development within the National Petroleum Reserve, Alaska. Its proposal would reopen more than 80% of the reserve. A draft analysis was released for public comment this week and seeks to update the Bureau of Land Management's Integrated Activity Plan, lining it up with 2020 framework for managing the NPRA. You can check this out and submit public comment on the BLM website through July 1st.
All right, still to come, the latest on the repairs that are underway right now along the Dalton Highway. Plus, this week's Inside the Gates honoring Fort Wainwright Brigadier General.
And it's here. We've got the story behind this incredible video and a Moose's pool pit stop. We'll be right back.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
Well, after 2 years of service in Fairbanks, Fort Wainwright and the 11th Airborne Division is saying farewell to Brigadier General Thomas Burke. That goodbye was formally made with a Circle of Honor ceremony last week. Adrian Peterson has more from the send-off in this edition of Inside the Gates.
Stories of success and memories made in the last frontier were shared at the Circle of Honor ceremony, sending off Brigadier General Thomas Burke, the Deputy Commanding General of the 11th Airborne. During the ceremony, Burke and his family received gifts from the division, and his commanding officer shared his thoughts on the impact and performance of the outgoing general.
Tom's experience in the 25th Cab with, an attack battalion up here, knowing the Pacific, that firsthand knowledge of the challenges up here in Alaska, combined with his own strategic foresight and vision, it really gave him the professional understanding how critical the organizations and units are up here and how strategic it is up here.
Those who served and worked with him personally said their farewell after the ceremony, many reflecting on the impact he made.
It's a very engaging human. He'll meet somebody once and will remember everything about them. And he loves being around the community. For me, personally, that made me get more involved at my level, just as a day-to-day human being.
One of his charges to me was to never forget where I come from and to never forget where you come from as a leader, no matter what level you're at. So he imparted upon me was wherever I am operating, operate very well and the best at that level.
General Burke will be returning to the Aloha State, but says his departure from Fairbanks is bittersweet for the whole family.
They don't want to leave because they've really found this, they've really made Alaska home. And again, it gets back to what I said in the beginning. The community threw its arms around us, welcomed us in.
While Burke will be taking a new command, he says Alaska will always hold a special place in his heart, and he'll continue to work with the 11th Airborne from the Pacific. Adrian Peterson, Alaska's news source.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.